Today we're going to go over Section 2 of the Geometry Topic 1 exam. Section 2 has 12 questions. Let's take a look at the first question. Okay, the first question says, a triangle is plotted on the coordinate plane. Each of its vertices undergoes the same transformation. Which rule below represents a transformation that does not preserve the length of the sides of the triangle? So which of these transformations does not preserve the length of the sides of the triangle? I'm going to tell you how you can answer this question in 1 second. Okay? In 1 second. All you got to do is look for which transformation is a dilation, because a dilation makes the triangle bigger or smaller, and it will not preserve the length of the sides of the triangle. To figure out which is the dilation, all you got to do is find a one where either x or y is being multiplied by a number that is not 1, which would be this one right here. I'll say that again. The way to answer the question quickly is to just find which of these transformations is a dilation. A dilation is when you multiply x or y by a number other than 1. Because when you multiply by a number that is not 1, it'll make it either bigger or smaller. So all I got to do is find which transformation has x or y being multiplied by a number that is not 1, and that's my answer. Because all the other ones are just translations or reflections. And a translation or a reflection does not change the size of the triangle. Let me just repeat that in Spanish. La pregunta es, ¿cuál triángulo? Si tenemos un triángulo y le hacemos la misma transformación a todos los puntos del triángulo, ¿cuál de las siguientes reglas representa una transformación que no preserva el largo de los lados? Y lo que tienen que mirar es cuál es la única transformación que es una dilatación. Una dilatación hace el triángulo más grande o más chiquito. Y para encontrar cuál es la dilatación, simplemente tenemos que mirar cuál regla están multiplicando a x o y por un número que no sea 1. Por ejemplo, aquí está multiplicando x por 5 y eso lo va a hacer más grande. Así que a la vez que encuentro eso, ya, esa es mi respuesta. So the correct answer is D. Question number 2. Which of these correctly defines a ray? ¿Cuál es la definición de un rayo? ¿Cuál respuesta es la definición de un rayo? Okay, so letter A says a straight path that extends endlessly in both directions. No, that would be what they just described is a What they just described is a line. So no, that's not it. Letter B, a circular path. A circular path that has the word circle in it. A circular path such that every point on the path is equidistant from its center. What they're describing is a circle, where every point on the path is equidistant from the center. A part of a line that begins at a particular point and extends endlessly in one direction. Yep, that's it. That's a ray. Forgot to do that. And just look at letter D. A part of a line with exactly 2 endpoints. That would be a line segment. So no, it's not that one either. Okay, so the ray would be letter C. Una parte de una línea que empieza en un punto particular y extiende sin fin en una dirección. So the correct answer is C. Alright, number 3. Rectangle ABCD is shown below. Point E is the center of the rectangle. Mayara claims that there are transformations that preserve the length of the rectangle's sides. Which of the following transformations could be used to support Mayara's claim? Select all that apply. Okay, so what we're looking for is out of these answers, okay, which transformations are going to preserve the length of the rectangle's sides? Alright, so as we look through each one, we got to answer, does it do this? Yes or no? If it does, we got to select that. By the way, notice it says select all that apply. So there's more than one right answer. Or there's more than likely more than one right answer, okay? La pregunta dice que tenemos este rectángulo. E es el centro, el punto E es el centro del rectángulo. Mayara dice que hay transformaciones que preservan el largo de los lados del rectángulo. ¿Cuál de las siguientes transformaciones se pueden usar para soportar lo que dice Mayara? Tenemos que seleccionar todas las respuestas que aplican. Así que hay más que una respuesta correcta. Tenemos que escogerla todas. Si te falta una o si coges una mal, la pregunta completa va a estar mal. Alright, letter A translation of 5 units to the left. So if I move this rectangle 5 units to the left, is the length of the sides going to stay the same? Yes. Okay, una traslación 5 unidades a la izquierda. Sí. Si lo movemos 5 unidades a la izquierda, los lados se mantienen el mismo largo. Letter B, a reflection over the side AB. If I reflect it over the side AB, it'll be like this, but the rectangle will be over here, but it's going to be the same size. The sides are the same, so that's also going to be correct. Okay, una reflexión sobre el lado AB, que pondría el rectángulo aquí. Los lados van a mantenerse el mismo largo. Letter C. Okay, I want you to pay attention to letter C. I want to point something out. Okay, letter C is kind of like a trick answer. It says a dilation of scale factor 1 through center E. A dilation. Okay, let me point something out. I had said that a dilation makes a shape bigger or smaller because you're multiplying the x and or the y coordinate by a number that's going to make it bigger or smaller. However, there's one exception to that, and that is if you multiply it by 1, if I multiply the x coordinate or the y coordinate or both of them by 1, they're going to stay exactly the same. So it's not going to change the size of the shape. So a dilation of scale factor 1 does not change the size of the rectangle. It's going to stay the exact same size. Therefore, it's going to preserve the length of the rectangle's sides. So letter C is correct. Let me just say that in Spanish. Una dilatación por un factor de 1. Ok, una dilatación es cuando se multiplica los coordinados de X o Y por un número para hacer la figura más grande o más chiquita. Pero hay una excepción. Si se multiplica por 1, los números se quedan igual y la figura se queda el mismo tamaño. Así que esto está en el examen. Una dilatación por un factor de 1 no cambia el tamaño de la figura, así que va a preservar el largo de los lados del rectángulo. Así que la letra C también está correcta. Alright, letter D. A rotation of 90 degrees clockwise about vertex B. Alright, so here's vertex B. If I rotate the rectangle 90 degrees, whatever direction you want, it's not going to change the size. It's going to stay the exact same size. So that one's also correct. Ok, la letra D dice una rotación de 90 grados clockwise. How's that for Spanglish? Ok, usando el centro sería el vertex B. Ok, una rotación no cambia el tamaño de la figura, así que la rotación no va a cambiar el largo de los lados. Así que esa también está correcta. Last one, E, a vertical... Whoops. All right. Let me write all the answers again. All right, I'm sorry. I got angry at myself there. I had to calm down. All right, letter E, a vertical stretch of scale factor 3 through center E. Okay, now this is a dilation where you're multiplying by a scale factor of 3 all the y coordinates. Whatever, it doesn't really matter whether it's the x or the y. All you got to pay attention is that it says that you're stretching the figure by a scale factor of 3. That tells you that, hey, the sides are no longer going to be the same length. So that's the only one that's wrong. Letter E is wrong. Okay, la letra E dice que están estirando verticalmente por un factor de 3. Ok, así que si lo están estirando, eso no va a preservar el largo de los lados del rectángulo. Así que la letra E está mal. Now, one thing, let me point out something. I hope you see, but look. This question has 4 correct answers. It's also like that on the test. Now listen, I know how students think and I know how I think. And if I'm taking a test, I may doubt myself. Most of us would doubt ourselves. Wow, 4 right answers? Oh, that can't be right. It's probably just 3 right answers. No, look, this question has 4 right answers. So just because it's so many right answers doesn't mean you should doubt yourself, okay? Keep that in mind when the test comes, that this question has 4 correct answers. Because if you only put 3, the whole entire thing is going to be marked wrong. Fíjense que esta pregunta tiene 4 respuestas correctas. Ok, 4 respuestas correctas. Así que no tengan duda cuando están haciendo la pregunta que a lo mejor esto es demasiado respuesta correcta, déjame quitar una, porque si le falta una, la pregunta completa va a estar mal. Estudien esto antes del examen. Alright, let's go to number 4. Alright, number 4. Which series of transformations would result in a figure that is congruent to triangle ABC? Again, I'm going to tell you how to answer this in 1 second. Okay? Listen up and you'll be able to answer this in 1 second. It's exactly like the one we did like 2 questions ago. Okay? La pregunta es, ¿cuál transformación resulta en una figura que va a ser congruente al triángulo ABC? ¿Cuál de estas transformaciones te va a dar una figura que es congruente? Congruente quiere decir el mismo tamaño que el triángulo ABC. Okay, so again, all you gotta do is look through the answers and locate which is the only one. In this case, well, you know what? Let me go one by one so I could point it out real quick. All right, and this one is saying dilation by a scale factor of -3. We want one that's congruent. So if you multiply by a scale factor, ignore the negative sign. The negative sign is just a reflection. It creates a reflection. The 3 is what we're looking at. If you multiply by 3, it's not going to be congruent. This one's also a dilation with a scale factor of 3. It's not going to be congruent. This one right here, a dilation with a scale factor of 2. It's not going to be congruent. Right here, last one, a dilation with a scale factor of -1. Okay, listen again, I'll say it again. The negative sign, don't worry about it. The negative sign is just creating a reflection. It's just reflecting the figure. What we're concerned about is that 1. When you multiply the x or the y by the number 1, it stays the same size, and that's what we're concerned about in order to figure out which is going to give you a figure that is congruent to the original one. So all you got to do is scan. Once you see that they're all dealing with dilations, find which answer is a dilation by a scale factor of 1. The negative sign does not matter. Once you locate it, that's your answer, and that's it. If you don't know that, you're going to look at this and you're going to be like 10 minutes trying to figure this out when it's very simple if you listen to me and if you review this before the test. Because right now you may understand it, but if you don't look at this again before the test, you're going to forget. And then on the test, it's all going to look the same to you. And then that's your fault, because I'm telling you exactly how to answer it in 1 second. You got to do your part and review a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit before the test to refresh your memory. And by a little bit, I mean like 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if you really want to put a lot into it. But if you're paying attention now, all you got to do is review a little bit before the test and you'll be good. Ok, así que en esta pregunta, para encontrar una figura congruente al triángulo ABC, se puede hacer bien rápido si me ponen atención. Todas las respuestas se tratan de una dilatación con un factor de, aquí dice el número, ok. El signo negativo lo pueden ignorar por esta pregunta, porque lo único que significa el signo negativo es una reflexión. Lo que nos interesa es el número aquí. Si es un factor de 3, va a ser la figura más grande y no va a ser congruente. Así que la A no puede ser. Aquí un factor de 3, la misma cosa. La B no puede ser. En la C, una dilatación por un factor de 2 tampoco puede ser. En la última, es una dilatación por un factor de -1. El negativo simplemente quiere decir que es una reflexión. El 1 es lo que me interesa. El 1 me dice que la figura no va a ser ni más grande ni más chiquito, va a ser el mismo tamaño, que es lo que queremos para que sea congruente. Así que la D es la respuesta correcta. Recuérdense que en el repaso yo tengo las respuestas mezcladas, porque es la letra D aquí, no quiere decir que va a ser la letra D en el examen de verdad. Okay, esto es una imitación del examen. Okay, just because my answer on the review is letter D does not mean that on the test it's going to be letter D. On the test, the order of the questions is scrambled, the order of the answers is scrambled, and also a lot of the questions I disguise them and change up the numbers. So the key thing is understanding the concept, not memorizing what number 4 is D, because if that's all you know, you're going to get a very low F, trust me. All right, let's go to number 5. A regular hexagon. Okay, now listen, I believe this word may be on the test. No, I'm certain it's on the test. But on the test, they're not going to tell you it's 6 sides. So I'm telling you now, please remember that a hexagon is 6 sides, okay? The way you could kind of remember is hex, kind of sounds like 6. That's the best I got, okay? Hex, 6. But a hexagon is 6 sides. And by the way, this word, we're going to see it throughout the year. All that means, because I don't think I've mentioned it this year, but a regular hexagon, a regular anything in geometry, means that all the sides and all the angles are exactly the same length. So all the sides are the same length and all the angles are the same degrees. Whenever you see the word regular, that's what that means in geometry. So it says a regular hexagon, which has 6 sides, is rotated about its center. By which angle could the hexagon be rotated so that it is mapped onto itself? All right, let me just repeat it in Spanish and then we'll do this question. It's very easy. Okay, dice que un hexagon regular, en geometría, cuando vean esa palabra, regular, eso quiere decir que todos los lados miden igual y todos los ángulos miden igual. Eso es lo que quiere decir regular en geometría. Y un hexagon, se tienen que recordar porque esto está en el examen. Un hexagon tiene 6 lados. Ok, en inglés, hex suena un poco como 6. Ok, en español sí que no sé qué decirle, pero tienen que recordarse que hex es 6 lados. Así que dice que un hexagon regular está rotado, no sé si así se dice, pero está rotado alrededor del centro. ¿Por cuál ángulo se puede rotar el hexagon para que quede arriba de donde está ahora? Para que cuando se haga la rotación quede luciendo igualito que luce ahora. Disculpen mi español malo. Okay, so alright, so look, this is how you do it. This is how you do all the problems like this. It's like we had a problem earlier this year about a Ferris wheel. Okay, and the question was, like, if you have a Ferris wheel, when it rotates, and this is a quick little drawing, let's say these are the little carts, how many angles does it rotate for the next cart to take its place? And I said, you just divide 360 divided by the number of little cars, or little carts, or whatever you want to call them. We also had an entire chapter where you had stuff like a star, a regular star, or whatever. And it was the same type of question, like how many angles does it rotate for the next star to take its place or for it to be mapped onto itself? And you always do them the same way. You divide 360 by the number of little points or the number of little cars. In this case, we're going to divide 360 by the number of sides because it has 6 sides. Or if you want to do it by the number of angles, it's the same thing. It has 6 angles. They both work, okay? Okay, este problema, teníamos un capítulo, una sección sobre simetría rotacional, donde siempre se hacen todos los problemas igual. Se divide 360 por los números de lados o por los números de puntos que tiene la figura, y eso te dice el ángulo de rotación. Alright, so in this case, 360 divided by 6 is going to give me 60 degrees. Now listen, to refresh your memory, that means that if I rotate it 60 degrees, it'll map onto itself. If I rotate it 120, same thing. 180, same thing. 240, same thing. 300, same thing. All I'm doing is putting all the multiples of 60 These are all the multiples of 60 that are less than 360. Because right now in this question it's B. But on the test, if they put you the same shape, it might be 120, it might be 180, it might be 240. You got to be aware of all of them. Alright, but if I divide 360 by 6, that tells me that every time I rotate this figure by 60 degrees, it'll map onto itself. Alright? Así que cada vez que hago una rotación de 60 grados, la figura va a lucir igualito que luce ahora. Así que 60 por 1, 60 por 2, por 3, por 4, por 5, todo eso son, si estuvieran aquí, serían respuesta correcta. En esta pregunta es 60, pero si te ponen 120 en el examen, sería 120. Tienen que saber todos los ángulos que pueden ser en esta situación. Alright, number 6. Or number, hold on. Okay, I guess I messed up the numbering on that, but let's just keep going. Which of these is defined as a... I'll try to fix it for the PowerPoint. I'm sorry, not for the PowerPoint. For the... for the PowerPoint that I put on the Microsoft Teams page, I'll fix the numbers. I don't know what I did there. But it says, which of these is defined as a part of a line that is bounded by two endpoints? Alright, so if it's bounded, it's a part of a line, bounded. Okay, the word bounded means to create a boundary. A boundary means that you can't go beyond that point, alright? So, I mean, it should be obvious that's a line segment. Hey, if you have trouble remembering what that word is, study it before the test because it's on the test. In fact, this exact question is on the test. I told you that there's some questions that there's no point in disguising them. This is one of them. This question is on the test. Because on the test, I don't want you to ask me, Mister, what does bounded mean? If I'm telling you right now, and I'm going over the question and the answer. This is a line segment. So, bounded means to create a boundary or an enclosure. To create a boundary or an enclosure. How am I going to translate that to Spanish now? Let me see. Let me give it a shot. Let me see what happens. Okay, esta pregunta está en el examen. ¿Quieren saber cuál de estas palabras es definido como una parte de una línea que tiene al final dos endpoints, dos puntos al final? Esta palabra está en el examen. Y no sé cómo traducir esa palabra en este momento, pero bounded es como poner en los dos lados al final, ¿ok? Dos puntos al final. Total fail there on the Spanish, but whatever, I'm human, I'm trying, ¿ok? Así que esta es la definición de un segmento de una línea, ¿ok? De un segmento de una línea. Esto está en el examen. Alright, moving on. Alright, number 6. How is quadrilateral ABCD related to quadrilateral A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime shown below? In other words, which of these transformations puts this quadrilateral on top of this quadrilateral? Alright, by the way, notice that this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. They're both in quadrant 2. They're both in quadrant 2. So notice that. I did that because I guess when I did this, that was the only way to fit the pictures and make them big enough to notice the little coordinates of each point. Okay, la pregunta es cómo cuadrilátero ABCD está relacionado al cuadrilátero A', B', C', D'. En otras palabras, ¿cuál de estas transformaciones pone esta figura para que... ¿Cuál de estas transformaciones va a cambiar esta figura para que luzca como está esta figura? Eso es la pregunta, básicamente. Now, by the way, look what I underlined here. I did that. It's not like that on the test. I did that so that you could realize that some of these questions, and there's more coming up, they switch between clockwise and counterclockwise. And if you're not paying attention to that, you're going to get them wrong. All right, so be aware. It's not underlined on the test. I underlined it, I put it in bold so that you would realize it now, but it's not like that on the test. Alright, so letter A, it says A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime is the 90-degree clockwise rotation of ABCD with the origin at its center. Okay, so let's look at that real quick. I'm going to try to tell you how to do this the easiest way possible. First of all, the origin at its center. So the origin is 0, 0. Alright, so if I do a 90-degree clockwise is to the right. Rotation of that, it's going to end up like, you know what, let me draw it over here a second. It'll end up looking something, this is just more or less like that. And it'll be in this quadrant. Notice that both of these are in quadrant 2. Alright, they're in the same quadrant. So it can't be a 90-degree clockwise rotation, okay? Fíjense que las dos figuras están en el mismo cuadrante, en cuadrante 2. Recuerden que este es el 1, el 2, el 3 y el 4. Alright, this is quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's both of these figures are in quadrant 2. Si hago una se tiene que fijar en la pregunta porque muchas de las respuestas te cambian entre clockwise y counterclockwise. Clockwise es en la dirección del reloj, que sería para la derecha. Y counterclockwise es contra la dirección del reloj, que sería para la izquierda. How's that for an explanation, kids? The little drawing there. Alright, ok, así que la letra A dice una rotación clockwise, que sería a la derecha de 90 grados. Y no puede ser esa, porque si lo roto esta figura 90 grados, 90 grados a la derecha, estaría aquí en cuadrante 1. Ese no puede ser. Alright, letter B. A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime is the 90-degree counterclockwise rotation of ABCD about point D. Here's point D right here. Okay, aquí está punto D. Oops, punto D. Let me draw it better here. Okay, y esto dice rotarlo 90 grados contra el reloj, alrededor de este punto. If I rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise, it'll be something like that, which is not what I have here, so that's wrong too. Okay, ese estaría mal también. Alright, letter C. A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime is the reflection of ABCD across the line y equals negative x. Let's look at both of these real quick, right? Let's look at the last two together. And I'm going to erase everything on here so I could... Okay, listen, maybe you haven't paid attention to this in a while or remembered what this is in a while, but let me refresh your memory. The line y equals... Let me draw this real quick. That line is y equals x. And let me put in blue the other one. In case people forgot. You should have this memorized, right? Because it's easy to memorize. That line right there is y equals negative x. Okay? You need to have that memorized. Okay? Recuérdense que esta línea diagonal es y igual a x. Y la que está en azul sería y igual a negativo x. Okay, so... let me use a different color here. Give me 1 second. So here's the shape that we're dealing with. It's like this. More or less. I'm just putting it roughly where it is. Okay, if I reflect this shape that's in like this pink or purple color, if I reflect it across y equals x, that's the last answer. If I reflect it across y equals x, okay, y equals x is this line right here. It's going to be somewhere like over here. Si reflejo esta figura sobre esta línea, y igual a x, va a quedar en este lado por aquí. But if I reflect it over the line y equals negative x, it'll be the reverse, like, you know, it'll be like that, which is what we're looking for. Okay, it'll be the right answer. So this is the right answer, but let me take it a step further just to prove to you that I'm right, in case anybody has any doubts. All right, the rule, if anybody remembers the rule, to reflect over the line y equals negative x, the rule is you change it to this. That's the rule. Alright, so if I pick a point, again, you don't have to do this. If you understood my explanation, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Just do what I just did. However, I just want to take it a step further. Alright, so point B is at negative 2, positive 3. According to this rule, B prime would have to be at negative 3, positive 2. And if you look here, that's exactly where it is. B prime is at negative 3, positive 2. Alright? If I check the other points, it'll match up as well. So I'm just showing you two different ways to think about it. In case when you're doing the test, you have a doubt in your mind about which is the correct answer, you could always check the coordinates to make sure. Okay, aquí estoy enseñando que la regla para hacer una reflexión sobre la línea Y igual a negativo X es la siguiente. Okay, se pone Y al frente, X atrás y a las dos se cambian los coordinados al signo opuesto. Y si tengo duda, puedo chequear los coordinados de cada punto para ver si eso es lo que está pasando. Y sí, eso es lo que está pasando. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Alright, number 7. Two congruent figures, triangle ABC and triangle DEF, are shown on a coordinate plane below. Alright? So it says already that they're congruent. They're telling you they're congruent. Which of these reflections map triangle ABC onto triangle DEF? Okay? La pregunta es, te dice que las dos figuras son congruentes. ¿Cuál de estas reflexiones voy a poner el triángulo ABC arriba del triángulo DEF? Okay, so let's look at each one. Letter A says a reflection over the line y equals 0, followed by a reflection over the line y equals 0. Okay, so I believe I went over this already, but let me refresh your mind. Okay, remember I told you that whenever you have an equation that says like y equals a number or x equals a number, the way to remember whether it's a vertical or horizontal line is it's always the opposite of the axis that has that same letter. So for example, this has the letter y. The y-axis is like this. The y-axis is vertical. So y equals 0 is going to be a horizontal line. I'll say it again. Whenever you have an equation that says something like y equals a number or x equals a number, and you're wondering, okay, is that line like that, or a vertical line, or is it a horizontal line? It's always the opposite of the axis that has that same letter. So for example, here they're talking about a line which is y equals 0. So it's going to be the opposite of the y-axis. The y-axis is vertical. It goes up and down. So the line y equals 0 is going to be horizontal. Alright? And y equals 0 is just a fancy name for the x-axis. Y equals 0 is the exact same thing. It's a more complicated name for the x-axis. The x-axis is also y equals 0. Okay? Let me just say that in Spanish real quick, and then I'll tackle whether that question is right or wrong. Although hopefully you already could see. Ok, recuerden que yo dije que cuando tienen una ecuación que diga o y igual a un número, cualquier número, o x igual a cualquier número, para saber si esa línea, o para recordarse si esa línea es una línea vertical o horizontal, ok, el único truco que yo tengo para recordar cuál es que siempre es lo opuesto del axis que tiene esa misma letra. Así que por ejemplo, aquí están hablando de una ecuación y igual a 0. Tiene la letra y. Así que esa línea va a ser lo opuesto de el axis que tiene esa misma letra. El axis que tiene esa letra es este axis aquí. Así que esta línea no va a ser vertical, va a ser horizontal. Donde y es igual a 0, que es aquí esta línea. Y igual a 0 es otro nombre para el axis de x. Es otro nombre para el x-axis. Alright, so this is saying a reflection over the line y equals 0. So if I reflect this shape, this triangle, over the line x equals 0, I'm going to get this. More or less. I'm just drawing it wherever. That came out horrible. Alright, but whatever. It's going to be more or less right here, okay? Si hago una reflexión sobre esta línea, me sale esto. And then if I reflect it again over that same line, si lo reflejo otra vez sobre esa misma línea, it's going to be just, we're back to where we started. You reflected it over the x-axis, and then you reflected it again, you're back to where we started. We wasted our time. Alright, so letter A is wrong. Alright? Si lo reflejo otra vez sobre esa misma línea, estoy para atrás donde empecé. Así que, it's not that one. I'm trying to figure out which one of these transformations will put this triangle on top of that triangle. Okay, letter B, a reflection over the line y equals x. Una reflexión sobre la línea y igual a x. That didn't come out right, but you know what I was trying to draw. Let me try to fix it. If I reflect it over that, it's not going to be that. Just trust me on that. It's not going to come out like that. All right, that's wrong. Same thing with a reflection over the line, y equals negative x. Again, I didn't draw it right, but that's also going to be like over here in a different way, but it's not going to work out either. The only correct answer, because this one is not that hard, is D. Okay, la respuesta correcta es D. A reflection over the line y equals 0, we'll put it here. Okay, una reflexión sobre y igual a 0, lo pone aquí. And then a reflection over the line x equals 0. X equals 0 is another name for the y-axis. So let me write this. Look, that's another name for the x-axis. And this is another name for the y-axis. If you look at it where I wrote it now, it should make more sense. Y equals 0, it has to be the opposite of the y-axis, so it's the x-axis. And x equals 0 is another name for the y-axis. That may seem confusing at first, but after you see it a couple times, it'll make more sense. But anyways, once you reflect it over the x-axis, it'll be here. And if you reflect it again over the y-axis, it'll be over here. And that's what we wanted, and that's our answer. Okay, así que primero una reflexión sobre el axis de x y después una reflexión sobre el axis de y. Me pone triángulo ABC sobre triángulo DEF, que es lo que queremos. If you find that confusing, guess what? Study. I'm giving you, honestly, this is pretty much imitating this question. So if you think you're going to get confused by that, simple solution, study. I know it's a crazy suggestion for some of you, because some of you never study. But maybe try it once and see what happens. You may be surprised. Okay, si eso lo encuentran difícil, estudienlo antes del examen, porque está en el examen. Si no lo estudian, luego no se quejen, porque yo lo estoy preparando para cada pregunta en el examen. Así que si cogen un grado malo, la culpa lo tienen ustedes. Alright, look at this one, right? I hate this question. I don't like this question at all. I think it's a horrible question. So I'm giving you the answer. I'm telling you right now, this is the exact question on the test. This is the answer on the test. I'm not sure if it's going to be letter B. Alright, I am not sure if it's letter B. It's probably, don't count on it being letter B, but that is the exact answer. So I don't know if you want to take a screenshot before the test or whatever you want to do, but I'm telling you right now, that is the answer on the test. I'll explain it just so that you can understand it, but nothing in the book spoke in this language, and I really don't like this question at all, so that's why I'm just giving it to you. Alright, and as I wrote here, Mr. Yu does not like this question at all, so he's giving you the answer for this question on the test. This is the exact answer on the test. Please, during the test, do not ask me what is the answer for this. I'm giving it to you now. If you don't take the necessary measures to make sure you have that answer for the test, that's on you, not on me. Okay, and let me just say that in Spanish real quick, and then I'll explain it so that you have an idea of what it's saying. Okay, esta pregunta no me gusta, porque de la forma que está escribiendo la respuesta, no vimos ningún problema en esta forma cuando estudiamos esta sección, así que no me gusta nada. Le estoy dando la respuesta que está en el examen. Usted, es tu responsabilidad tirarle una foto o escribir la respuesta o lo que quieran hacer, pero esta es la respuesta y no quiero que me pregunten durante el examen qué fue la respuesta esa, porque se lo estoy dando ahora. Alright, so let me go over what this is saying real quick. Alright, translate GHJ, that's this triangle right here, translate GHJ by the directed line segment GS. Alright, all that means, the directed line segment is, what they mean is to translate that entire figure like this way, GS, and put it like right here, so that it'll be like this. Like if you recall, we have this thing called vectors. It's basically a vector. They're telling you to translate this and move it over here. Okay? To give you this, like all we did is shift it to the left a couple units. Okay? So that's the first move. Once you do that first move, now it changed to triangle G prime, H prime, J prime. And they're telling you to rotate it using S. Let me draw it over here because it's kind of messy. Let me draw it over here real quick. So here's S, U, T. And after we move it, here's G prime, J prime, H prime. And the S and the G prime are the same dot, okay? So after I do that, they're telling me to rotate it using S as the center by the angle H prime ST. Let me change up the colors so I could point something out. Okay, so they want you to rotate it using point S as the center of rotation by the angle H prime ST. By that angle, rotate it. So when you rotate it by that angle, it's going to match up exactly. Like they're going to be like, sorry, I wasn't using my pen. It's gonna look like this. Like once you close that gap, when you rotate it by that angle, it's gonna close that gap so that they're like this, okay? And then the last step is to reflect triangle J double prime, H double prime, J double prime over this line, which is ST, and it'll match up. And since that was our, let me see, 1, 2, 3. We did 3 transformations. Before we do the last transformations, this is now J double prime, H double prime, J double prime. Because you had, at that point, done 2 transformations. If you read it slowly, it'll make sense. I'll say it again, just real quick. Translate GHJ by the directed line segment, GS. That's like when we studied vectors. They're just saying to move it right here. Move this triangle right here by the directed line segment, GS. Move it so that it'll be right here. Once it's right here, they want you to rotate it using S as the center by the angle H prime ST. Okay, basically once you move it over here, you're going to have this thing and H prime will be right here. So if you rotate it by the angle H prime ST, it'll close this gap so that they're like this. Something like that. I drew it horribly, but you get the picture. And then the only thing left to do is to reflect it over this line that's in the middle. Reflect it over the line in the middle, and they'll match up. They'll match up. And I know that they'll match up because if you look, this has 2 little lines because it corresponds to this side. This has 1 little line which corresponds to this side, and this one has 3 little lines which corresponds to this side right here. Let me try to say all that in Spanish now. Okay. Así que déjame explicar la respuesta para que tengan una idea de lo que quiere decir esto, aunque le estoy dando la respuesta. Ok, tenemos que trasladar el triángulo GHJ por el... Ok, esto sí que no sé cómo traducirlo bien, pero Directed Line Segment GS por el Directed Line Segment GS. Básicamente diciendo esa parte que dice de trasladarlo para acá en la dirección de GS y ponerlo aquí para que luzca así. SUT. Aquí estaría G', H' y J'. Ok, la segunda transformación es rotar el triángulo G', H', J' usando S como el centro por el ángulo H', ok, así que déjame cambiar de colores aquí para que vean. El ángulo sería H', que está aquí, ST. Básicamente cuando hacen esa rotación va a cerrar este hueco que está aquí, ok, para que las dos figuras estén así. Y aquí estaría G', J', H', la T también está aquí, U y S. Y el último paso es reflejar la figura, el triángulo G', J', H' sobre esta línea, la línea ST, reflejarlo para que esté encima del triángulo SUT y que luzca igualito, uno arriba del otro. Otra vez, esta es la respuesta, por en el examen a lo mejor no es la letra B, a lo mejor es una letra diferente. Es la responsabilidad de ustedes o escribir esta respuesta o tirarle una foto o lo que sea. Pero en el examen no quiero que me pregunten, Mister, ¿cuál fue esa respuesta que tú no dijiste? Eso es la responsabilidad de ustedes. Alright, moving on. We're almost done, alright, with this section. Oh, you know what? This is the one I went over earlier. So, I meant to delete that earlier slide because on this slide I actually looked it up on Google to put the exact definition of bounded. It means form the boundary of, enclose. Alright, but I'll delete that slide for when I put up the PowerPoint, but There you go. We already did this one. Ok, ya esta la repasé, pero hice un error y lo puse 2 veces en el repaso. So this one's line segment. Alright, number 10. Alright, this is one where, let's look at this one, because when I was looking at this question, I almost messed up. And if I almost messed up, that means there's a good chance you may mess it up as well. So let's look at it, alright? Esta cuando vi la pregunta, yo pensé la respuesta un poco diferente y por poco lo hubiera cogido mal si no me doy cuenta del error que estaba haciendo. Okay, so it says let E be a point not on line H, and let E prime be the image of E after a reflection about line H. Alright, hold on, let me draw this because I know a lot of you guys are already like, dude, this is hard. Alright, look, let E, point E. And by the way, I recommend you guys, if you're taking a test and you're confused, do a little sketch. A lot of times it'll help you get unconfused, all right? So it says let E be a point that's not on line H. Let me just draw line H wherever. Let's just draw that. This is H. So this is line H. This is point E. And it's not on line H. I could have drawn this a lot of different ways. I just chose to draw it like that, okay? Así que dice que vamos a dejar que el punto E, déjame decirlo mejor, E es un punto que no está en la línea H, así que eso es lo que dibujé. Se puede dibujar de muchas maneras diferentes. Simplemente dibujar una línea, poner que esa es la línea H y poner un punto que es el punto E y que no esté encima de la línea. Now it says let E prime be the image of E after a reflection about line H. About means over or around. Alright, so let E prime be the image of E after you reflect it over this line. That's what it's saying, okay? Dice, vamos a dejar que E primo sea la imagen de E después de una reflexión sobre la línea H. Alright, so let me just put that more or less where that would be on the other side, more or less. E prime. Okay, I didn't draw it exact, but more or less. Okay, now it says let V be any point on line H. Any point. Let's pick a random point. I don't know. Let's pick, something like here. I could have put it anywhere. I could have put it right here. It doesn't matter, okay? Dice que vamos a dejar V ser cualquier punto en la línea H, okay? Cualquier punto. Se puede poner donde quiera, porque V representa cualquier punto en la línea H. Now we got to determine whether each statement below is true for all points E, true for some points E, or not true for any points E. Okay, true for all, true for some, or not true for any. Okay, tenemos que determinar si cada declaración que está aquí es verdadero para todos los puntos de E, o verdadero solamente para algunos puntos de E, o no es verdadero para ningún punto de E. Esas son las 3 opciones para cada declaración. Okay, so the first one, line H bisects E prime. Line H bisects E prime. Okay, so let me change up my color of the pen here so I can draw something. Alright, so remember that the word bisects means goes through the middle. Okay, bisects means goes through the middle. So E prime means the distance from here to here. Whenever you reflect something to the other side of a line, it's always got to be the same distance. The distance from line H to E has to be the same as the distance from line H to E prime. So therefore, yes, it does bisect. It does bisect E prime because it goes through the middle of the distance from E to E prime. Okay? Así que la primera opción dice que la línea H está bisectando E primo. La distancia de este E a E primo. Cuando se hace una reflexión de un lado a una línea al otro lado de esa línea, esos puntos tienen que estar a la misma distancia de la línea hasta el punto. Así que la distancia desde la línea H hasta el punto E tiene que ser igual que la distancia desde la línea H hasta el punto E primo en el otro lado. Así que, y bisectar quiere decir ir por el medio. Si la distancia de este punto a esta línea es igual a la distancia de esta línea a este punto, eso quiere decir que esta línea está exactamente en el medio de este segmento. Así que sí, eso es verdadero para todos bisect. Eso es verdadero para toda la situación que tenemos aquí. Line H bisect. Struggling a little translating that to Spanish. Give me 1 second. I'm just thinking real quick. Determine whether each statement below is true for all points E. Yeah, donde quiera que yo pongo el punto E, eso siempre va a ser verdadero si hago una reflexión sobre esa línea. Alright, let's look at the next one. EV is equal to E prime V. Alright, let me change up colors here on my pen to red. So EV is equal to the distance of E prime to V. That is also true. Alright? I could have put point V anywhere, and the distance from E to that point and E prime to that point has to be the same. So that is also true. Okay? La distancia desde E a V, la distancia desde el punto E hasta el punto B, que el punto B se puede escribir donde quiera en la línea, tiene que ser igual a la distancia desde el punto E' a V también. Again, if you draw that point V anywhere, it's going to be the same situation. Alright, look at line H. Line H is the one that I almost messed up. And I'll tell you why. First, let me answer it, and then I'll tell you why I got confused and almost put the wrong answer. It says line H is perpendicular to E prime. In case you forgot what perpendicular means that it creates a 90-degree angle. That's perpendicular. Okay, so line H is perpendicular to E prime. That is also going to be true for every case, because it doesn't matter where you put E. If you reflect it, well, I meant to put E, not E prime. My pen did that by accident. No, that time I did it. What is wrong with me? All right. Wherever you put point E, if you reflect E prime on the other side, when you connect them, it's always going to be perpendicular. All right. Wherever you put E, if you reflect it over that line, all right, the distance from E to E prime, that segment is always going to be perpendicular to this line, no matter how you draw it. Okay, I could draw it like this. Let's say E is right here. If I reflect it, E prime, it's always going to be perpendicular, always. And the reason I almost messed up when I first looked at this question is because I was thinking about that it had to do with connecting like from E to this point V and then like this, and I was thinking, oh, it's only true for some cases, not all. So you got to be careful and read the question carefully, because even me, if I read it fast in a hurry, even me, I mess up sometimes because I'm not entirely focused and I'm just reading it quickly, and even I can mess up. So you got to read the question carefully and be sure you're reading it correctly, okay? Así que la línea H siempre, en todos los casos, va a ser perpendicular al segmento E'. No importa dónde escriben el punto E, y si hace una reflexión del punto E a E', ese segmento siempre tiene que ser perpendicular a la línea H. Perpendicular quiere decir que forman un ángulo de 90 grados para los cuatro ángulos. Alright, and the last one, let me erase all this. The last one is the only one that's wrong. Line H is parallel to E prime. Parallel is that, okay? So, just to draw what I had up before it, that's line H. Line H. Okay, so wherever you put E, okay, if you reflect that, it's impossible. It's impossible for those lines to be parallel. You can't do that. So that's not going to be true for any. Okay, so look, another thing to keep in mind, notice that this is blank. Because if you don't study this before the test and you're not paying attention, on the test you might be like, oh, there's got to be at least one in this column. Let me put one in this column. And that's it. You're going to get the whole thing wrong. So it will really help you to review the answers for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes before the test, so that you can remember little details like this and not make a mistake, and you start doubting it when you start doubting yourself about whether there should be one in this column or not, okay? Así que el último está mal porque es imposible para la línea H que esté paralelo al segmento E'. Es imposible. Paralelos son líneas así, que siempre se mantienen a la misma distancia de una línea a la otra. The other thing I was going to say is on this question, listen, on this question, I'm basically copying the exact question. I'm going to tell you what I did so that you're aware. I'm copying the exact question and the exact answers. The only thing I did is I changed up all the letters are different on the test, and the order of these answers is different on the test. Now, if for someone paying attention, that should be no problem for you, okay? But for the people that are not paying attention, who also don't bother studying, believe it or not, when all that stuff gets scrambled, all of a sudden, if you really don't know what you're doing, there's a good chance all I need is, if I'm trying to get you because you're not paying attention, all I need is for you to get one of these wrong, and that's it. The whole thing is wrong. All right, so if you're paying attention, the different letters and the scrambled answer order should not make a difference. All right, but if you're someone who's in outer space, chances are you're gonna get caught when on the test the letters are different, the order of the answers are different, the order of the questions are different. All that stuff will mess you up, and all it takes is one mistake, and the whole thing is wrong. So I'm telling you this to urge you to study. It'll make a big difference. All right, I don't mean study for like 5 hours. I mean just study like 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. Any amount will really help you. Okay, así que en esta pregunta las letras yo la cambié, son diferentes letras en el examen, la orden de la respuesta es diferente. Okay, así que si entendieron, la pregunta es básicamente la misma cosa en el examen, pero si no están poniendo atención y no estudian antes del examen, por lo menos 15 minutos, 30 minutos, que es lo único que necesitan, se le va a olvidar todo esto, y cuando en el examen todo está mezclado, se van a confundir y solamente coger una mal de estas 4, ya la pregunta completa está mal. Así que estudiar va a hacer una gran diferencia. Alright, let me speed it up. Number 11. So this question says, if triangle STR is congruent to triangle EVH, then which of the following are true? So let me just sketch out a little picture here to help us analyze it. Alright, so triangle STR is congruent to triangle EVH. Notice that when I drew it, if I drew it this way, STR, I continued the same pattern over here, EVH. La pregunta dice que si el triángulo STR es congruente al triángulo EVH, entonces ¿cuál de las siguientes es verdadero? Alright, so the first one, it should all be the same color, sorry about that. The first one says that segment ST is congruent to segment EV. Segment ST is congruent to segment EV. And yes, that is going to be true because ST is the first 2 letters and EV is the first 2 letters. Also, ST is this side right here and EV is this side right here. Okay? So yes, that one's correct. Esa está correcta. El segmento ST es congruente al segmento EV porque los dos son las primeras 2 letras de los triángulos. Son los lados que corresponden. Un lado corresponde al otro. Alright, number 2. Angle TSR is congruent to angle VEH. Alright, so angle TSR is this one right here. Angle TSR. Remember that the vertex has to be in the middle when you're talking about angles. Okay, angle TSR is congruent to angle VEH. Okay, VEH. So VEH, that's this angle right here. And yes, those 2 are congruent because the vertex is S and the vertex is E. S is the first letter and E is the first letter. So those are congruent. Okay? El número 2 dice que ángulo TSR es congruente al ángulo VEH. Recuerden que el vertex, la letra del vertex siempre tiene que estar en el medio. Ok, y sí, esas 2 son congruentes porque son los ángulos que corresponden. La letra S, ángulo S es la primera letra del triángulo STR, igual que el ángulo E o la letra E es la primera letra del triángulo EVH. Así que ángulo S corresponde a ángulo E. Alright, the third one is the only one that's a little bit tricky, a little bit, because it says angle RTS. RTS is this one right here. I'm going to put 2 lines to differentiate from this one, okay? Angle RTS is this one right here. RTS is congruent to angle EVH. Okay, EVH. Yes, that one's correct. Again, I put 2 lines to differentiate between this angle, okay? The only reason some of you may find it tricky or may get tricked by it is because look at the order of the letters. RTS. RTS is the third letter, the second letter, the first letter. And it's comparing it to the other side to EVH, which is the first, second, and the third letter. So it's not in the same order. But when you're talking about angles, the most important letter is the one in the middle. Angle T is congruent to angle V. Because I drew a picture, it's easy to see. But if you don't draw a picture, you may just look at the order of the letters and think that since one is going 3, 2, 1, and the other one is going 1, 2, 3, that's not correct. But they're both talking about the same angles. I'm imitating the exact same tricky part of the answer, the correct answer on the test. Alright, so this type of answer is on the test. The only thing I changed up is that the letters are different, but it's the same exact concept. So watch out for that on the test. Okay, la tercera respuesta es la única que te tratan de engañar, porque la primera parte dice ángulo RTS, que sería este ángulo aquí. Le puse 2 rayitas para diferenciar entre este ángulo y este ángulo. Ok, pero ángulo RTS te está diciendo que es congruente a ángulo EVH. Ok, en lo que dibujé se puede ver que son los ángulos que corresponden. Tienen que recordarse que la letra más importante es el vertex, que es la letra que está en el centro. Okay, así que como la T es la segunda letra aquí, corresponde a la segunda letra aquí, que es la V. Okay, esos dos ángulos son igual, son congruentes. Pero se puede decir RTS o ángulo STR y es el mismo ángulo. Igual que aquí se puede decir ángulo EVH o HVE. Los dos se refiere al mismo ángulo. Estoy imitando cómo está la respuesta en el examen. Las letras que yo puse son diferentes de las letras en el examen, pero el concepto es igual. Alright, so remember that angle RTS means the same thing as angle STR. And angle EVH is the same thing as angle HVE. They're both referring to the same angle. The last one is the only one that's wrong. El último es que está mal. The last one says SR is congruent to VH. So if I erase all this, SR is the first and the third letter, and VH is the second and the third letter. So no, those do not correspond. That one's wrong. Alright, el último es el único que está mal, porque esas letras no corresponden. Está diciendo que el segmento SR es congruente al segmento VH, pero se ve en la orden de las letras que esos lados no corresponden. So the first one, the second one, and the third one are right. On the test, I got this scrambled, so on the test it's not the same order. So don't memorize the order because you're going to get it wrong. Okay? En el examen, whoops, didn't mean to do that. En el examen, la orden de la respuesta no es igual que lo que yo tengo aquí. Así que si memorizan que son los primeros 3, no va a ser igual en el examen. Tienen que leer. Alright, but on this one, the correct answer is letter D. Alright, let's go to the last one. In the graph below, triangle ABC is transformed to triangle XYZ. To show that the triangles are congruent, triangle ABC could be transformed by which movement to fit exactly on triangle XYZ. In other words, which one of these transformations will put triangle ABC exactly on top of XYZ? Okay? Básicamente, ¿cuál de las siguientes transformaciones va a poner el triángulo ABC encima del triángulo XYZ? Alright, so first of all, let me point something out real quick, which is, if I measure the length of the sides, okay, like this side goes from -8 to -2, so it's 6, and this side goes from -2 to -10, so it's 8. And over here, this side goes from +2 to +8, so it's 6, and this side goes from +1 to +9, which is 8. Alright, the diagonal side, I'm not going to get the length because I need the distance formula and it's not necessary. If these two sides are the same, that means the diagonal side has to also be the same. Alright, so why did I look at that? Because that tells me that the two triangles are congruent, okay? Alright, the two triangles are congruent, so really I didn't even have to do that because it says it right here, I just realized. But whatever, just so that you realize that the two triangles are the same size, alright? And the reason I did that is to eliminate this answer right here. If you look at this first answer, it says a dilation of 1.7. Okay, a dilation where you're multiplying by a number other than 1 is going to make the shape either bigger or smaller. which means they wouldn't be congruent. So since these two triangles are congruent, that means this cannot be the answer. Ok, podemos ver que estos dos lados miden igual que estos dos lados. Así que los dos triángulos son congruentes. Eso me deja eliminar la primera respuesta aquí, porque dice que es una dilatación por 1.7. Si hago una dilatación por un número que no sea 1, eso va a hacer el triángulo más grande o más chiquito. Así que como una dilatación por 1.7 lo hace más grande, entonces en esa situación los triángulos no serían congruentes. Y nosotros queremos escoger la transformación que pone un triángulo encima del otro. Así que no puede ser la letra A, porque eso cambia el tamaño de uno de los triángulos. Alright, so letter B. A reflection over the x-axis followed by a reflection over the y-axis. Alright, that's an easy one to disprove. If I reflect it over the x-axis, I'm going to get this, more or less. And if I reflect it over the y-axis, I'm going to get this. And that does not match up. Okay, si lo reflejo sobre el axis de x y después sobre el axis de y, pueden ver que no va a ser donde tengo, el triángulo no cae donde quiero que caiga. Alright, so letter A and B are wrong. Alright, for the sake of time, I'm going to jump. From C and D, the answer is D. I'm going to jump to it so that I can explain it. Alright, and speed this up a little bit. Alright, first of all, notice that these answers are saying clockwise. In the test, it jumps between clockwise and counterclockwise, and if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to get answers wrong. So be aware of that. Fíjense que la respuesta dice clockwise. Okay, en el examen la respuesta y la pregunta cambian entre counterclockwise y clockwise. Se tienen que fijar en eso. Si no se dan cuenta, van a coger preguntas mal. Alright, so look. Since this is in clockwise, and I'm going to use one of the rules just to explain this question, I'm going to point out that you got to realize that 270 degrees clockwise is the same as 90 degrees counterclockwise. Because all the rules that we learned are counterclockwise. So if I want to use one of the rules and they're giving me information clockwise, I gotta translate that to what it would be counterclockwise. Alright, so what do I draw here? Let's say I'm starting here. Let me do that. How's that? Okay, if I go 270 degrees 270 degrees clockwise in the direction of the clock, 270 degrees clockwise, that's the same as going the other way 90 degrees. Because in total a circle is 360. So if I go 270 this way, that's the same as going 90 this other way. Alright? And I'm about to use this rule to answer this question. Alright? The correct answer is D. Alright? For the sake of time, I'm just showing you the correct answer and I'm going to talk about it. Okay? Así que si yo quiero usar las reglas que aprendimos, que tenemos, todas las reglas que tenemos son usando la dirección contra el reloj. Así que si la respuesta o el problema me está dando información en la dirección del reloj, como en esta situación, y yo quiero usar las reglas que tengo que primero traducir eso a cuánto sería en la dirección contra el reloj. Así que por eso dibujé este círculo. Okay, si roto esta línea 270 grados en la dirección del reloj, que es para la derecha, eso es lo mismo que haciendo la rotación 90 grados contra el reloj. Okay, termino en el mismo lugar. Y para usar esas reglas que tenemos, tiene que siempre ser contra el reloj. Alright, so a 90 degree counterclockwise rotation. Counterclockwise. Alright, whoops. I'm tired from reviewing, guys. Alright, so the rule is this. La regla es la siguiente. That's the rule for a 90 degree counterclockwise rotation. Alright, so I got points A, B, C. So A is located at -2, -10. B is located at -2, -2, and C is located at -8, -2. So when I do this transformation, the 90-degree counterclockwise rotation, A prime is going to be at, okay, the Y you put it in the front and you change it to its opposite sign, and the X you put it in the back. For B prime, the Y you put it in the front and you change it to its opposite sign, and the X you put it in the back. C prime, the Y you put it in the front and change it to its opposite sign, and the X you leave it in the back. So that was the first transformation, a rotation of 270 degrees clockwise, which is the same as 90 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, followed by, oh whoops, that was not the color I wanted, let me change that again. Followed by a translation left 1 units and up 10 units. Left 1 unit and up 10 units. Alright, so to get my final coordinates for X, Y, Z, X, Y, and Z, alright? If I move it left 1 unit, that means subtract 1 from all the X coordinates. Okay, para moverlo a la izquierda una unidad, le resto una unidad a todos los coordinados de X. Alright, so this is going to become 9, 1, and 1. And then to move it up 10 units, I gotta add 10 to all the Y coordinates. Para moverlo para arriba 10 unidades, le tengo que sumar 10 a todos los coordinados de Y. So -2 plus 10 is positive 8. -2 plus 10 is positive 8. And -8 plus 10 is positive 2. Alright, so these are my final coordinates, which, if you look right here, X, Y, and Z, X is at 9, positive 8. Y is at 1, positive 8. And Z is at 2, Z is at 1, positive 2. Alright, so this is the correct answer. Okay, this one is one that you should look over because on the test the answers are going to be scrambled and it's easy to get confused between 90 clockwise, 270 clockwise. It's easy to remember to confuse which is which, especially since you got to translate it to counterclockwise. Okay, so this is one you should definitely study. Esta es una de que deben repasar antes del examen porque es muy fácil confundir si era 90 grados en la dirección del reloj o 270, especialmente porque se tiene que traducir a contra del reloj y cuando lo traducimos a contra es los números opuestos. Así que esta vez se debe estudiar antes del examen. Alright, and that concludes section 2, the review for section 2 of the exam.